Okay, next step. Let's see if we can make it so the skyscrapers, their height is tallest near the center of the city and getting gradually less as you move away from the center. So what you should already have finished before this video is you should have made a city where, while the buildings are not the same height, they're all random, but their max height is kind of all this, they're all kind of stuck on the same ceiling. They've all got the same maximum height. What I'd like to do is create a maximum height that looks more like this curve on the right, where the maximum height follows this kind of bell curve shape. And it's doing that in two dimensions. It's doing that bell curve shape in the x direction and the bell curve shape in the z direction. Now, of course, the individual skyscrapers, they're not all hitting the maximum height. But the ones over here have to be shorter, and the ones in the middle, they don't have to be tall, but they could be tall. Okay, so how do we get such a shape? Well, this is where why we study mathematics. So math to the rescue here. All we need to do is find a function that has this kind of bell that describes this shape of a curve. So in algebra, in pre-calculus, and calculus, we spend a lot of time trying to make graphs of functions so that we kind of have a sense of what the shapes of these functions are. So this particular function is a exponential. So it's some value a times e, and then all this stuff is in the exponent. E to the negative x squared, oops, that should be a z. Let's see, can I erase it? Yes, okay, sweet. Okay, so x squared plus z squared divided by some number. This number is in the exponent, and that number I've called s. You could call it s squared. Sometimes you'll see other symbols for it. But the idea is that this number decides how rapidly it spreads out. So if you change that number in your code, what you should see happen is you can make the spread either kind of gradually tapering off, or you can have it taper off much more rapidly. So that's up to you. Let me just flash over to what this looks like in code. So here I've introduced a variable called max height. So the maximum height of my skyscrapers, and I'll let you figure out how to get the random heights, but those random heights are related to the maximum height you can get. So here I've just typed in that formula where I used the a value, which in my case is 100, which means the biggest this can be is 100. And then exp is how you write the e, and then a minus sign, and then parentheses. I should do x squared and z squared, and then this value here would be my value for s. And this 100, you should play around with that. Find something that you like. Okay? Now the only thing that I have here that I didn't have over here is if I make the 0, 0 coordinate like over here, this function is going to be centered at 0, 0. So it'll give me a max, oops. It'll give us a maximum over in this corner, which we don't want. What we need to do is take this function and shift it away from 0, 0, that direction. And for most of you who've had algebra, the way you can shift a function is you add something directly onto the x. So if I was going to shift this function, I would have the same function So if I replace x with, say, x minus 2, blah, 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 that function would then be shifted 2 units to the left. So in my example here, I've shifted it 15 units to the right, and 15 units in and out, because I've changed the x value by shifting it and changed the z value by shifting it. But go ahead and give it a try. See if you can now make your city have this kind of bell-shaped curve, and play around with some of the numbers until you